Could be up to the offensive line. No, Prince's going to throw for it. Got to get it off. They go for the ball game. Touchdown! Touchdown! Michael Jenkins! Holy Buckeye!
Tebow straight ahead into the end zone, and the Gators have put this one on ice.
Hello, 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 and welcome to the Tim and Shipe Show. This is a college football podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. We're part of the Press Play Podcast Network, and Tim and I are going to be talking college football from now on until, January, weekly. Right now, we're in our preseason episodes, though. We got 2 more preseason episodes before our actual podcast kickoff. So for the next 2 episodes of the podcast, we're going to be breaking down our top 12 teams. We're doing 12 because we're talking about a 12-team playoff in the future. So Tim and I are getting a jump on it. Tim, how you living? How's life? What's going on, buddy?
Oh, man, I'm just ready for college football. I'm ready to get started. We're getting so close now. We're right on that edge of real football happening. We waited all spring, all summer for this, and we're finally here. Yeah,
I'm going to say today there was some – I enjoyed the Big Ten game. If you're listening to this probably in the future, we're recording this Saturday evening. And so just got finished watching Nebraska, Illinois. And it was a doozy. It was fun to watch. It came down to a fourth quarter drive. And Illinois stepped up. So kudos to Illinois and Brett Bielema back in the Big Ten. We're starting off his season with a win.
Yeah, and I'm thinking I may end up feeling like I need to do a little segment every episode of hindsight is, as far as what things we've talked about before, you and I, not necessarily on the air, but in general of for example, Coach Asuku taking over when Jim got fired, what could have been for Florida, and thank God it didn't work out that way.
Yeah.
Armchair quarterback on a Monday night kind of thing. I just feel I feel like I do a segment a week of things that I've been oh man, I really hope this happens, and then I'm so glad it didn't work out that way.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be one. I was thinking in season 1 we did Kiffin's Corner. I thought maybe this year we do Bielema's basement or something. Brett's basement.
I like that.
We dive into the depths of Brett Bielema on a week-to-week basis, because that man, he's a wild card.
Yeah, I told you earlier. I didn't know he was Illinois' coach this year. I was what happened to this guy? And I told you, I looked him up, and I was holy crap, he's 51. He's been 60 for 20 years, and he's only 51.
Yeah, he's been around a while. Seemed like he was with Wisconsin forever. Then tried his luck out in the Big Ten in Arkansas. It's just hard to recruit there. I don't think.
Yeah, he went Big Ten to the SEC. It didn't go well for him there.
Yeah, but Arkansas though, this is a hindsight thing. This is armchair coaching. Exactly. Why go to Arkansas? If you're gonna pick an SEC school, pick one that you can recruit to.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying though. Is I don't. Maybe it's Wisconsin. Maybe Wisconsin is hard on people. But he looked 60 when he was there a long time ago. He's always been old, but he looks younger now than he did then.
Yeah, he's just not a healthy person either. So that might add to it a little bit.
Fair point.
All right, let's dive into it. We're doing our top 12 these next 2 episodes. We're starting with number 12, going all the way up to number 7. Tim and I are probably going to differ on quite a few of these, so we're going to be breaking down quite a bit of teams. If we do a repeat, we won't dive too deep into it between the 2 of us. We'll just collaborate. But we have 12 teams coming up. I'll start things off here and start with Indiana coming in at number 12 on Shipe's top 12. I have Indiana. Here's how I broke these down, folks. In the past, I've done recruiting. This year, I'm not taking recruiting into it as much. I'm going with who's your quarterback, what's your strength of schedule, as in how many ranked teams do you play in this college football atmosphere. The less good teams, the better. So strength of schedule or lack thereof, and your coaching. Who's your coach, and what kind of credibility, how well have they done against the big teams in the past? So those are my 3 criteria.
My criteria are specifically, like you said, I agree. Strength of schedule, who are they playing this year matters tremendously. Mm-hmm. Beyond that, I have recruiting and then key returning starters for this season.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. So Indiana quarterback coming back, Michael Penix Jr. Tore his ACL last game of the season against Maryland. But man, he was dynamic. He gave Ohio State fits throwing and passing. I'm going to say he'll probably be the third quarterback off the board this year in the NFL draft. That's a hot take from Aaron Shipe. Michael Penix Jr., he's dynamic.
Okay. My number 12 is Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
Here's why. There's a couple of factors here that not necessarily always factor into our specific rating criteria, but I don't have a lot of faith in the Big 12 this year.
Mm-hmm.
That's not news. That's not unusual, but I don't see a lot of power in that conference, and I hope I don't eat those words later, but I just don't see a lot from them. I don't have a lot of faith in them.
The Pac-12?
Pac-12.
Yeah. Okay.
So having said that, I have two teams in my top 12, spoiler alert, but Oregon is one of those teams based on the fact that they had the number 3 ranked class this past year or this year. So that, and the other thing is they have Tyler Shaw returning this year. He's a transfer from Texas Tech, and I just think that he has potential to really, really be a good quarterback this year.
Mm-hmm.
After completing 1,500 yards last year and a somewhat shortened season. They had a lot of challenges last year because of COVID, and he still had a pretty significant season. Now, the downside is he had 13 touchdowns and 6 interceptions last year, so we definitely have to hope that for them to be considered a top 12 team, he's going to have to do better than that this season.
Oregon, everything is pending on week 2. If they beat Ohio State, then there's a really good chance they might be in the playoff.
Right.
Because they don't have any other teams that they have to play. They have Washington and Utah. Those are their only top-ranked teams, and by the end of the season, they're probably not going to be ranked.
See, I didn't even count Washington or Utah in my consideration. I consider Ohio State and Stanford. Not that Stanford's not my top 12. I'm just saying that was, for me, I feel I considered them more of a challenge than the other teams that you mentioned.
Yeah, I almost think Stanford is old news. They're not what they used to be. But I don't know. Oregon, I don't know. Oregon's in my top 12, so I'll hit on them more. I'm going to jump back into Indiana. I'm sorry, Tim.
No, it's okay.
All right. I have strength of schedule for Indiana, Ohio State, Penn State, Iowa, Cincinnati. They have a really tough schedule. That's my only question mark for Indiana, is that they may not finish in the top 12 because they could very well end the season with 4 losses. Iowa is going to be a tough game. Penn State's always tough. Cincinnati is really, really good this year. So they may not end in the top 12, but I think that they are a top 12 team. They have Tom Allen, coach of the year, 24 career wins. And that's in his first 4 years. 24 wins in the first 4 years, Tim. That is an Indiana record.
Yeah, that says a lot about
total wins.
Indiana.
And that's in his first 4 years, Indiana record. He was the coach of the year, national coach of the year. So they check the boxes on quarterback and coaching, but strength of schedule is going to keep them out.
Yeah, I agree. I think they have to be either Ohio State or Cincinnati plus at least one of those other games you mentioned to even be considered in the top 12 at the end of the season.
Yeah, they have a rough road. So you're saying they got to win 3 out of their 4 tough ones to be in the top 12.
Well, I would say if they beat Ohio State and they lose, or they lose Ohio State in a close game, beat Cincinnati, and win at least one of those 2 other games, they're going to have to win at least 50% of those 4 and be convincing in some of those losses as well.
Yeah. So they got a tough road ahead of them. They're playing the 3 of the 4 best teams in the Big Ten. They skate by. They don't have Wisconsin this year, but they're playing 3 of the 4 best teams in the Big Ten this year, plus Cincinnati. They have a tough road ahead of them, but look for Indiana to make some noise throughout the season because they're going to pull some upsets and they're going to be tough out for Buckeyes.
Yeah, I get that. That's going to be an interesting game. Who do you have for your number 11?
11, I have your Gators. Your Gators. Right. They check 2 of my 3 boxes. Strength of schedule. They have a pretty easy schedule. I think if they have Bama, LSU, Georgia. Those are the teams that are in question for me. I think they should skate by. All the rest relatively easy. But Florida's kind of known to kind of blow those easy ones sometimes. At least last year they were. They had who was it last year that they lost to? They should have
LSU.
They should have smoked LSU. So LSU's overrated once again. Not surprised, but still, Bama, LSU, Georgia, they're 3 ranked teams going into the season. So they check that box because I think they can still let one slip to Bama if they win against LSU and Georgia. They are, and then they'll be in the conference championship game and be on the fence as to whether or not they're in the college football playoff. But right now, they are number 11, not top 5 for one reason. My only question mark, the only box that's not checked, Emory Jones as their quarterback. I am not an Emory Jones believer. What I've seen from him, it's not been impressive. So that is what's leaving them out of my playoff, and that's why they're 11th and not 5th or 4th.
Yeah, I see where you're at. I think that I will have more to say about that moving forward.
And your top 5, probably?
My top 12 for sure. That's all I can say. But I can't talk too much about that right now because I don't want to give too much away.
All right. 11. Hit me with it, Tim.
My number 11 is Iowa State. And the reason is I believe that Iowa State had a pretty disappointing season last year, but I think they have one of the potentially top-ranked returners for this season as far as quarterback and running back. So they're bringing back Brock Purdy, the senior quarterback, and Breece Hall, the junior running back. Both of those two are going to be top 15 Heisman favorites coming into the season. I think Breece Hall might actually be better than Purdy as in the rankings. I haven't looked at them recently, but I do believe that he's going to end up being higher ranked. They have now. My downside for them is they have a 55th ranked class coming into this year, so that dropped them. That's why they're number 11 for me. But realistically, I think that they have a really, really good chance of going really far in this conference this year. I think there's going to be a lot of distractions with all the Oklahoma-Texas conversation going on. So I think that this is probably Iowa State's best chance they've had in a very long time to win the Big 12 this year. So not saying it's going to happen, but I would say I put them low because of the ranking class. But overall, I would say that they're returning starters and the talent they're bringing back. If their coach can pull through, he has a lot of hype right now. If he can actually pull it through this year, then I think they have a real shot in that conference.
Yeah, this is Matt Campbell's year. I saw a thing where he's not on a hot seat, but he is in a place that's really, really risky because he has to do great. He has to have a great season. Right now, he's on all the short lists of coaches for schools like Michigan, schools like, and the chance that they pay him a lot of money, maybe Nebraska. All these coaches that are on the hot seat, he's on the short list. If he doesn't produce this year, he could be out in 3 years. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, this is his year, and he has to capitalize on it. So Iowa State he's under a ton of pressure. I don't even know if he realizes the pressure, but because the expectations are so high for Campbell, it's going to be I potentially pretty rocky for him. I'm a little worried about him.
Yeah, and I think we can both agree. We've seen that before where coaches decide to stay where they are because they're like, yeah, I got this, and I'm going to be successful where I am. And then within 3 or 4 years, they're not relevant anymore. Yep. At smaller schools, it's happened a lot. So I agree with you. Potentially, either he gets the opportunity to move to a more well-known program, or he becomes irrelevant over time. He's not exciting anymore. And there's pretty much 2 choices. Like, you have the same 10, 15 programs in the country who stay relevant, and then you have everybody else. Right.
So Matt Campbell, I hope he does well. I'm rooting for him. I think he's a great coach from what I've seen so far, but he still has something to prove because you have to show us, was last year a fluke or are you the real deal? That's what he's got it.
Makes sense. All right. Who do you have for number 10?
Number 10. This is one that checks all the boxes. Number 10 for me, Wisconsin. Believe it or not, Wisconsin checks all the boxes. They have 3, I'm going to use quote unquote tough games because we don't know what Penn State is. Was last year a fluke for them because they weren't good last year, but everyone's counting on a comeback, kind of a bounce back year for Penn State. Notre Dame, who knows what they are? Are they even good? And then they have Iowa. Those are the 3 teams. Iowa's always a tough out for everybody they play. They're going to bring their best. They're going to play hard every game, but they always end up losing. Wisconsin and Iowa in the past have always been same type of momentum, same type of play. It's going to be, hard fought, nose to nose. But what separates Wisconsin this year from the rest of those teams is their quarterback. Wisconsin has been known for having a tough-nosed running back, great, huge, big offensive line, running out the clock, and using a game manager type quarterback. Graham Mertz is not that. Graham Mertz is a legitimately good quarterback. If he can stay healthy. Last year he was fighting injuries, but Graham Mertz this year coming in as a legitimate quarterback threat where they could actually throw the ball down the field, puts Wisconsin in my top 10. Paul Chryst, does he know how to coach this kind of quarterback? He's 52-16 overall with a great, that's a great winning percentage. So Wisconsin, I don't know. They seem to me, they check all the boxes. 10 might be too low for them. They may be a top, 10 might be right on track for them. Yeah, I like number 10 for Wisconsin.
Okay. My number 10 is Texas A&M. And I feel like a lot of people are going to have them higher than I do, but I'm not ready to go all the way up to top 6 yet for them. Part of that is based on their schedule. Their only really tough games are Alabama and LSU.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they are able to survive one of those, they're actually probably a playoff team this year potentially. But the problem is all three of those teams are in the same division. So that's going to be a challenge for them to get into the playoff. I think they have to win probably both of those games realistically.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at them more as like a top 12 team for the playoff in the future, not so much for a playoff team right now.
Yeah.
The advantage they have going for them, they're actually the number 6 ranked recruiting class coming into this year. Now they have a lot of challenges too because they have their Kellen Mond, their quarterback who've been there for years, is gone. They're turning to Haynes King, who was the backup last year, to be the guy. They have Isaiah Spiller coming back and running back, who I think will help them a lot. But I think they're going to. So I think they're really going to rely on Spiller because, King is very new. He's only had a very, very small amount of plays he's even completed in college football. So I think he's only had 4 attempts total in his career so far. So he's very young and very inexperienced. They're giving him the chance because he was a backup last year. That's why I ranked him so low.
Yeah, I have them at 8. I won't even really touch on them when I get to them because I have Texas A&M as my 8th ranked team. Jimbo Fisher, proven he's a good coach. Strength of schedule, man. If they beat Bama, they're in. They got LSU after that. That's it. They have a cakewalk of a schedule in the SEC. Bama is number 1, LSU 16. So, and that's 16 start. Again, I'm not a believer in Orgeron right now. He had it. If he has the first pick of the NFL draft as their quarterback, he's going to have a good season. But besides that, he's,
He's what he is.
Yeah. He is what he is. Exactly.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, I'll give you 2 spoilers right now. LSU is not my top 12. Also, Notre Dame is not my top 12. And I'll explain that in a minute.
They're not mine either. Neither one of those teams are my top 12.
See,
yeah.
That's a huge thing, I think, for a lot of people.
A lot of people have them, but
we'll get there. We'll get into that.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. Jimbo Fisher, proven strength of schedule. If you get by Bama, you're in. The only question mark, like you said, Haynes King. It's his first year starting. Show me what you got, and we'll go from there. So they could move up and could move down. For me, it's all dependent on Mr. Haynes King.
Yeah.
My number 9 is Oregon. You touched on them a lot. They strength of schedule. If they get past Ohio State, they're in. They're going to be in my top 5, probably top 4 if they get past Ohio State, because there's no other tough games. Quarterback Anthony Brown Jr. making his first year start. They have high expectations, but this is preseason, and you're going to get high expectations no matter who your starting quarterback is. Coaches are always going to do the coach speak, the way he leads out on the field, the way the players follow him, his command of the offense, he's getting coach talk. So high expectations. Mario Cristobal, he's a question mark for me as well. He's 52-57 all time. He's an offensive-minded coach, which is what Oregon is known for. And I think to turn the corner for Oregon, they need a defensive-minded coach to bring it all together. So I don't see them getting past Ohio State. I think it's going to be a pretty big loss, but we'll get to that next week, believe it or not. They play 2 weeks. They're playing Oregon at the Shoe. So we'll get into Oregon a little bit more, take a deeper dive into them in the future. So I already gave you my number 8, Tim. Who's yours?
number 8. Well, we're jumping ahead now.
Did I skip ahead 9 for you?
Yeah, I haven't done 9
I'm sorry.
yet.
Give me 9. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I don't think. Have you done 9? Was that your 9?
Oregon.
Okay. My number 9 was Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So I know you covered a lot. I don't have a lot more to say beyond that. They have the 15th ranked class this year. Graham Mertz, like you said, he is going to either make or break this team. I would say a little bit of an underwhelming season last year with 9 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. So
games.
What's that? Yeah, he didn't have a lot of games. I agree. He had 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, limited season. I understand that. He's gonna be the difference this season with them. So they actually made my top 12. I think higher into the top 12. I think they actually have a really good shot of being in consideration, if not winning that side of their conference.
Yeah, Graham Mertz, man, he made a believer out of me early, but again, he hasn't played too much. He is the question mark, but I mean, he's not though. I don't know. He impressed me last year. We'll see what happens this year. Okay, right. Sorry, I jumped ahead. I already gave you my 8. Jump into it.
My 8. You gave me your 8. Your 8 was Oregon.
A&M.
A&M. Okay.
9.
My 8 is Cincinnati.
Oh.
I think they are going to be the challenge of the non-Power 5 conferences to get in the playoff this year, let alone when we have a top 12 consideration playoff. Right now, Desmond Ridder as a senior returning this year, he is going to be the key. I think that if their recruiting class is not high, it's 38th. That's why they're not higher in this for me, because I don't see a huge challenge in their schedule. Now they play Notre Dame, and they play nobody else. Like Indiana. That's it. They play Notre Dame. If they beat Notre Dame, they're in.
They play Indiana.
Yeah, I don't. They're not in my top 12. Yeah. They're in your top 12. They're not in my top 12. So if they beat Notre Dame, for me, that's it. That's another reason I mentioned I did put Notre Dame in. I meant to mention this before, but with Wisconsin plays Penn State and they play Notre Dame. If they beat those teams, they're in, basically.
They play Iowa.
Yeah, they're not my top 12 either. Cincinnati, I look at them, and if they beat Notre Dame, they're in. Okay. They're in consideration for the playoff. They don't have anybody else they play.
Yeah, and that's why I don't think they get into the playoff. But I think if they beat Notre Dame, Indiana, and I have 7 for me is Cincinnati. I have Indiana, Notre Dame, and UCF. UCF's a tough out every year for Cincinnati. They're in the conference championship last year. And I put them on there as a legitimate win. And so strength of schedule, quarterback Desmond Ridder. Here's a hot take for you. Desmond Ridder is the first quarterback off the board in the NFL draft.
Whoa.
Maybe number 1 overall.
That's a hot take.
That is a hot take because NFL scouts, NFL teams love good quarterbacks from bad teams because they always have to throw under pressure. They don't have the offensive line Ohio State has. Ohio State, everyone, they're 6'5", 6'6", 300 pounds, they can move, they're athletic. Ohio State, Florida's of the world, they have the best offensive lines that you could possibly think of. Cincinnati is not always that case. So the quarterback has to think fast, has to think quick and be smart. And if you're a good quarterback on a bad team, you get drafted high. I mean, look at the draft this year. So I think Desmond Ridder, he's got everything. I mean, he's got the arm, he's got the scrambling ability. Desmond Ridder, your number 1 quarterback off the board. And next year's draft, he's the best quarterback in the season. He is going to do some awesome things. Heisman watch, folks. Heisman watch out of Cincinnati, Ohio. Luke Fickell, we know he is AAC Coach of the Year, 35-14 record, 9-1 last year. Lost in the Peach Bowl on some fluke plays. I'll leave it at that.
Can we agree that he's had the most probably unfair shake of any coach in college football, taking over that Ohio State program several years ago, many years ago now, where they had suspensions, they had players leaving, they had a coach leaving. I mean, it was a really bad situation.
Yeah, he should. I mean, Cincinnati, he loves the Cincinnati area. He's from there. He knows the high school coaches, his family, from what I hear. This is just what I hear on the radio. but his family loves it there. His kids are in like school. Like he Cincinnati is his home. And so he's doing really well there. But if Cincinnati has the year that everyone thinks they're going to have, they may not be calling Cincinnati home for much longer.
All right. So that was your number 7?
7. Yep. That's it for me. Number 7, right. Cincinnati Bearcats.
My number 7 is University of North Carolina.
North Carolina.
I know. So their recruiting class was 16th this year. So not the best, not the worst. But what I think we have to consider is their schedule and what they have coming back in. So Sam Howell returns this year. I think that he is an underrated player as a quarterback. I think he has potential to be what you're saying, number 1 quarterback taken. I think he could be top 3. Like he has a talent. If he doesn't turn the ball over, I think he's athletic. He's skilled. Along with that, their toughest game this year, they played Miami, which I don't know who Miami is yet. They're not my top 12. I'll just put that out there right now. But then they play Notre Dame. Notre Dame and Miami are North Carolina's toughest games this year. They don't play Clemson during the regular season. So, there's a lot of opportunities for them to improve over what they've done the last couple of years and potentially get into the playoff.
Yeah, so full disclosure again, North Carolina's not in my top 12. And that might be a hot take or whatever, but I don't want North Carolina to do well. I don't know why, but I don't. Maybe because they are already do well in basketball. They don't need both. But I don't want North Carolina to do well this year. I want them to lose every game, and I don't know why. I have no good. I like everything about their coach, their play. I just don't want them to do well, and I can't explain it.
Well, that's okay. I mean, I think Mac Brown, he's an old school coach.
He's like a great guy.
Yeah, he really does. He's like my grandpa. Like you just love him. Like you can't help it.
Yeah.
But again, Sam Howell, 3,500 yards, 30 touchdowns, 7 interceptions last year. Like he's no joke. He's a real deal. Yeah. He's going to be a really good quarterback. I think they just have to bring it all together. They started out strong last year and kind of fell apart. I'm not sure what happened, but I liked them a lot.
Yeah. I want them to fail miserably, fall flat on their face. And
I'm not saying I'm cheering for them. I'm just saying it.
No, and I don't have them in my top 12 strictly off of bias and for unknown reasons. I have no reason why I don't like them. I just don't want them to do well, and I don't think they will. But who knows? They could be really good. Anyway, that's our top 7. That's our bottom. That's our bottom 6. I don't know what I was thinking. That's our bottom 6 in our top 12. Tune in a couple days, folks. We're going to be bringing you with the top 6. The big, and my guess is you could probably guess 5 of the top 6 on both of our lists.
Yep.
Because it's not that much of a secret. If you see the AP and coaches poll, it's probably going to look pretty similar to those top 6 because these are the teams that show up year in and year out, both recruiting, quarterback, and coaching, at least as far as I'm concerned. These are the blue bloods of college football coming up in our next episode. Tim, final thoughts on this episode?
I definitely have final thoughts. Like this is something I think we have so much to finish before the season even starts. We're gonna have a lot of short blast episodes coming out because we have so much to talk about, and we're so passionate about the sport. We're finally getting back into it that we have things we've been trying to talk about for months that we're finally okay. We got to get these episodes out. So be looking out for those. Like there'll be several episodes in the next week or two. Mm-hmm. And so just, make sure you're subscribing to our podcast. So you're getting the alerts that, hey, we got a new episode out for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Also give us a like, follow, comment on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Give us a review. Let's make up a t-shirt. We're talking right now, probably what should be behind the scenes, but let's come out with a t-shirt or something. If you give us a good review on iTunes or something like that, we'll send you a Tim and Shipe Show t-shirt, maybe with our faces on it or something. No, I don't know. That would make you not want to do it. Just check us out. Give us a review on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, so that other people can experience the Tim and Shipe Show and really come to enjoy it, because we love giving it to you. We love doing this show. We come here week in and week out through college football, and we hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Again, we're part of the Press Play Podcast Network, and we're going to be doing these episodes more and more, and we hope you tune in. We'll catch you next time.
Go Gators.